Aikiche was able to get a Maniac on her side as well. So is that change going to be enough to help this team overcome the monster that they faced last week in Infinity here today?
Yeah, when it comes to King from yesterday, it feels like something like unfairy tale. Like getting the Savage but not winning the game. So for him, I say, okay, I did my part. The team didn't win, but at the end of the day, everything was right. Everything was good for DreamMax's winning 3-1 yesterday. But now we are heading for the picks and bans here. The first ban on Guinevere coming out from Infinity, and oh, what a surprise once again, Freya with 100% here prioritization so far with the banning. So now we are going to see the next bans.
Yes, they've gone ahead and banned that Herethot. On the side of DreamMax, it seems like their team comp is now working for them. That's their little switch-ups have been doing a wonderful job. Like Private was saying, they got that first Savage in the tournament. Was it the first Maniac too, as well? I don't know, but they didn't. I'm not even sure. But they did a wonderful job. But their problem was closing out when we were watching. They had a hard time closing out those games. So I wonder if they kind of were able to adjust that for the matches today. They went ahead and banned out Baxia and Marcel as well.
Yeah, leaving open what I'm trying to see. I mean, we still have Zushin out there on the table that we can go with. You've still got the Phoveus and the Valentina. Sora is still available for a lot of these teams, but you pointed out something very well, especially with our interview that we had. I want to say that it felt like they understood that they had a lot of work that they needed to do still to be able to overcome, but we're gonna for both of these teams, if there's something that I went back yesterday, especially as DreamMax, the first thing that I would address with them is the closing out. They have turned into this well-oiled machine in the beginning of the game, but when it comes to trying to rush on the core, maybe we get a little overconfident. We're not all target locking onto the same thing. Do we go for the core? Do we go for the kills? We need to keep that communication up throughout the entirety of this game, because there's a lot of slip-ups. They didn't lose the series yesterday, but it could very easily, especially against a team like Infinity, who's just had such a stellar rise here lately, it could spell the difference between victory and losses here for DreamMax.
Yeah, as we were talking yesterday, like this closing out issue from DreamMax. Yeah, yesterday was it was versus let me see, I forgot, I have a bad memory. Yeah, it was versus a Black Sentence, was the 3-1. So the first two matches, they were like really having problems of closing out. So we were talking about, okay, it was versus Black Sentence. If when it comes to another teams, you know, like more qualified teams like versus Octa Gaming or Alpha 7, for example. So this could be, and this has to be fixed. It has to be talked to the team, you know, to be rearranged on a DreamMax. But by the time you were seeing and we were talking here, so the first choice for Infinity comes from for Zunshin, and the response for DreamMax, Suyo and Claude. So we were about to see, we saw actually Suyo in King's hands when he was an XP laner, and also Claude, it wasn't so good, but now Suyo comes in the jungle, and Claude here in a gold lane.
I'm kind of surprised that they banned Phoveus instead of priority banning the Zushin, but I guess they feel that they have something here, but they're pairing that with the chip. She's going to be able to go everywhere and CC everything. But they went at the Suyu though, like you said, King Suyu is beast, is really good. And now they picked up that Eve, that damage output from her, and the slow that she can give to the team and give that CC will be very helpful.
Yeah, interesting here. We picked up Julian, which you don't really see too often in the meta so far, just because I feel I feel like he's kind of a poor man Suyu when it comes to he's got
Sniper
mobility,
ready.
he's got a
Give me
decent
a
amount of
target.
damage that he can dish out. But what Suyu has, including those escapes, is that Suyu can get a bit of defense with a lot of his kit that Julian doesn't have. So he's almost like an assassin, and he has an escape, but it's just not the range that you get on something like Suyu, or that you would get on a Harley who can use his teleport. The teleport is huge for Harley. And Julian, it's going to be very interesting to see how we play this. But Chip out there, that's pretty much the special for Fanboy here. He's been very successful on it. His team understands how to utilize a lot of those teleports to get around the map to make sure to isolate out any part, especially in the early game. And I feel like that's where we're going to need to focus. Here, we just have Eve. We're going to need to look for something else that can kind of support the early game. And I think Infinity is reading that too, because that's exactly where they focus down, taking down the Hilda, taking down the Khalid. So we don't really have that early burst to really kind of offset the Chip, and it will allow Chip to really harass into their back lines.
Yeah, and we used to talk about Fanboy and heroes that he can bring for us, about his hero pools, but we must consider it. Oh, Carmilla. Okay, coming from DreamMax. They want to get a really a pressure on this river, especially around these objectives. Coming with Carmilla here with a very interesting control, a very huge sustain. So that could be very interesting for a DreamMax. But now we're waiting for the response coming out from Infinity here. Assuming there's still gold lane lacking and XP lane. I don't think that it's gonna be carry. I think that versus Carmilla here, it could be she can struggle most of the times. 2 XP lane, maybe Lapu is still open here. Okay, Lapu. Oh, Bruno. All right, so yeah, carry, especially about the range situation, that might not be a good idea.
Yeah. What are they looking for the side of DreamMax here? I'm not even, my mind's not processing
I'm
right
assuming
now.
it's going to be an XP lane. I'm assuming Carmilla's going to be the roam, and then we're looking for an XP lane to kind of duke it out with Lapu.
Alright. So, well, that one, we'll see what they choose here, but,
I think, I mean, if you're trying to close the distance onto the back line, Alice, maybe even Yuzong is not.
Oh, yeah, there you go, you're Alice.
Yeah,
you
Yuzong.
guys are calling it on point today right here.
Well, it's the first one. It's before we have a lot of these ones off the table. So this one's almost, it almost feels like it's so easy when you have all the heroes available out there for them.
Yeah, so when it comes to like the best of 5, if you go to the last game, for example, we're not surprised if you see Rafaela, for example, here, or Mia in a goal lane. Everything is possible when it comes to MCT AMER South, as we are used to see in these games. But now here, looking at the 2 compositions, we got like with the Zushin, a good control from the objectives. I think that the most of this game here, Private, is gonna depend on how both teams are working on this pressure on the mid lane and the river, through moving forward to the objectives. You know, the turtle, the lords here, especially in the early game, is going to be very interesting, because we're talking about like a Fanboy here, but we have to consider ZZ and Zablox in Infinity's lineup.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be game 1 to start our Sunday afternoon. The beginning of the playoffs here for AMER South. It is Infinity and DreamMax looking to make a statement.
Yeah, so let's go, guys. So it's the 3rd game here. Not this 3rd game today, but this is the 3rd game between DreamMax versus Infinity. Everything is tied up. So now let's see in this best of 5. Remember, it's not the end. If the losing team here are heading for the lower bracket, so it's not the end. But oops,
Yeah, immediately catching a stun. Lionel's gonna have to use that flicker to get out of harm's way. It does help his team be able to pick up this Lither Wanderer very early, but it's gonna be very interesting to me to how is our composition on the side of DreamMax? Are we going to be able to close the distance on the Lionel? Ooh, Fanboy almost getting caught there, but showing that expertise and his understanding of what Fanboy can take, able to flicker out at the last moment. But as I was saying, what do we have? If Goo is, there's a lot on Goo's shoulders to be able to get to that back line to shut down Lionel, because I feel like you're gonna have a lot of escapes from the Zushin to be able to get out of harm's way. Unfortunately, we do have a little bit of a pause, but I mean, when we're talking about Carmilla, you're going to be able to lay down the real world manipulation with the Eve. Carmilla's going to be able to come in with that Curse of Blood, which is going to be able to stun everybody, hopefully, before they can leave the barriers of that real world manipulation. And then when you have them all connected, you'll be able to kind of spread out that damage, the potential burst damage that's going to come out from Eve, that's going to come out from Suyo as well. But they have to be able to catch them. And that's where I'm wondering if they are going to be able to close that distance.
Everything with the Carmilla pick will be very helpful in them getting that damage in, right? They're going to be linked, so that damage is going to be spread out through the entire team. So this is a match to watch. Like, I don't think we've seen Carmilla being chosen or often at all. I don't think we've even seen her, but just this is what I love about this, though, the fact that they could just pull out these heroes and try to make it work. But some of the time it does not work out in their favor, but you know, if they can make it work, it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, when it comes to this matchup here, especially in the roaming of the Fanboy versus Bling, I think that DreamMax came with the idea that they knew that Fanboy was about to choose a chip here in the first game. So bringing Carmilla in this first game here, because the matchup for a chip, especially in the early game, is not so good for him, because Carmilla has so much pressure. It has about the sustainability, it has about the control system. So maybe DreamMax are trying to work in this early game here, especially to get this advantage. And as we are seeing here in the first minute, both Zushin and Chip, they were forced to use Flick. So they don't have the spell for the first turtle here when it comes to possibly first team fight around this objective. So this early game might not be the best of the roles for Infinity, so they have to check out, they have to look for it as sooner as they can.
Well, when it comes to roams, especially for the first objective, I think first of all, the roams kind of have to take a little bit of a step back at that first objective, because most of them don't have level 4 at that time anyway, so they're not going to really be the main part of it. Chip does still have a lot of CC that he can offer out there. Same with Carmilla. You got a pretty decent amount of tankiness and resiliency from her to be able to get a lot of health back, but when it comes to the first objective, she's basically just got a stun, and then she has to kind of run out of there, unless you're going to be able to find a way to get her out after she engages the entire team. I feel like when it comes to actually being able to hold your own, hold the line inside the turtle pit, I feel like that really leans towards King right now, especially because Suyo has a lot more defensive capabilities for his kit. Julian is very squishy, so I actually am very curious to see how we're going to manage that. Are we going to use our chains to get in there at the last moment and then be able to retry, or are we looking to actually duke it out and be able to kind of push back DreamMax?
I would like to see this as the execution, like with the chain, knocking off the jungler, possibly, for example, to avoid the retribution when it comes to the objectives. But now we're seeing here in Infinity aware about this. Oh, here it comes.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and start up onto this turtle. You see a lot of the damage coming out there. Ooh, the Throne of Ruin kind of trying to get on. They're all starting to try to get on to Goo, who has taken a lot of damage and might be taking out Goo. Town by Rusi. Blink eating the entirety of that ultimate from Rusi as well. That's going to force back King and allow Infinity some time to be able to pick up this turtle. Meanwhile, at the bottom, Zablotch putting a lot of damage onto Zeus and forcing him back.
Well said here, Private. So with no level 4 for the roaming, so when it comes to Goo here, Oh, okay.
Yeah, Zablotch didn't see that flank coming in from King. King's able to come in, get the stun, and immediately put him down. And that is unfortunate for Infinity, as this does get tied up 1-1 apiece.
Yeah, they lost the turtle, they lost the first kill here, but it was for compensating, getting the kill here on the Bruno, on Zablocks in a gold lane. So everything is tied up, but the gold lead comes a little bit ahead for Infinity so far in this 3 minutes so far in the game here. So we are going to see, and we're going to wait until how both teams are going to handle that kind of pressure. As we can see in the little map before. Oops, here comes the boom.
Yeah, they went ahead and actually dashed a little bit forward. Curse of Blood comes out, including the Throne of Rune. Goo in trouble onto the back line and is able to find himself and escape, really pressing the advantage that he has with the Alice and that escaping ability. So great job there by Goo of DreamMax.
Yeah, once again here, Zunshin causing a lot of pressure, causing a lot of trouble versus DreamMax, especially with the stacked lantern here coming with this great crowd control. So once again here, Goo was in trouble. At this time, he was able to survive, he was able to escape. Now head back to the base, regen this HP, and now both teams are heading for the bottom lane, the gold lane here, which are the two... Oops, Goo. Alright, so the Flicker is on the move. The Flicker is still open here, but once again, what a pressure here on the top side versus Goo.
We're at a point, though, now both roams do have their ultimates for this next objective, too. So you can actually go ahead, get a decent amount of pushing in the side lanes, and Fanboy will still be able to come in with the teleport. You see him here looking for an angle to get in. He's on the wrong side. Oh, look at the stun onto 3 members of DreamMax, but down comes the real world manipulation. Is that going to be enough? As you see now, the Alice Goo is taking a lot of damage. Blink gets taken out as well. The rest of DreamMax going to be forced away from this objective.
Yeah, DreamMax here, they should know that Infinity has the global presence from a chip. Oh my goodness.
Blazing Duet onto Lionel. He's going to be able to use that BMI to get away from there as well. King and Fanboy duking it out from the backside. Blink trying to come in, wants to be able to save this tower. Zablotch just launching meteors at it after meteors. Has been able to clear out the lane. And right now, I kind of feel like when it comes to scaling, Zablotch on the Bruno, I feel like Bruno just has a much more intense opening when it comes to the mid game. Zeus really still needs to wait for that. Late game needs to wait to get those 3 items so that he can get in. We do have a teleport there. I think we're looking for the bottom tower, looking to be able to push out the rest of a DreamMax and get that tier 1.
Yeah, it's becoming just a little bit complicated for DreamMax, especially because of Fanboy's global presence with the Chip's ultimate. So by the time that we have a team fight, for example, anyone from Infinity can join this fight. Oh, oops, in the top side, King. Okay, he was able to survive. So in the mid lane here could be very interesting for Infinity, especially now working on the macro or working on the map advantage so far and the 2 turtles. As we were seeing, the gold lead here always getting higher for Infinity. 3,000 for Infinity, sorry, when it comes to the gold lead so far.
Yeah, and I feel like this is kind of a great combination. You have the Chip and the Bruno, so you're going to be able to get around. Ooh, speaking of which, the big stun lands on the King, and there comes the damage from that knife of ZZ on that pickup. And we were wondering if Julian would be able to pay the dividends. He is squishy, but he pays, or he actually comes back with that with an immense amount of damage that he's able to output. And you saw just a little example of what he was able to do to burst down King. And now the sieging attempt onto the mid tower. Throne of Rune lands onto the back line, followed up by the Curse of Blood and real world manipulation. The big blast of damage coming in the form of Zeus coming in with that blazing duet, but it's not enough as they're still taking a lot of damage, looking for an escape, getting put down. Goo, the second player for DreamMax to go down here in Infinity's 5-2 lead.
Come on, Zunshin is so broken. Zunshin here saved the play for Infinity at least twice with the lantern. this is ridiculous. This hero is it should be banned all the time here because okay, at DreamMax we know that they are qualified, they are strong. So, but at this point of the game, the presence of Zushin here is so strong, especially when it comes to suppression, especially when it comes to this situation to get this control, to knock it up players here to help in the team fights. So it's helping all the time here in Infinity when it comes to DreamMax taking the actions, and then we have the response from Infinity. But now, unstoppable for Rusi here on the top side, my friend Private, on the gold lane Zeus.
Yeah, he's almost got a whole 10k over Shikitse on that Eve, and Eves are usually known for a lot of their damage, and even when it comes to that last engagement, I feel like it was the perfect setup for DreamMax. You had Goo come in with the Throne of Ruin, you laid down the Curse of Blood, you had the real world manipulation, and then Zeus able to come into the back line. They're just not at those power spikes they need to be able to finish people with those fights. Speaking of fights, Lionel taking a lot of damage there. Blink gets forced back a bit. In comes the bravest fighter form from Russo, but DreamMax want none of it and are going to disengage to their towers.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the Trinity here, like ZZ, Lionel, and Fanboy, there's so much crowd control, especially coming up to... Oops, here comes Blink once again, the purple buff. Here is the party.
Yeah, Blink in trouble getting sprayed down there. When you have the Curse of Blood come out there, ZZ's going to be able to use those chains to be able to get away. Ooh. Unfortunately, Goo got caught from the CC from Lionel of that lamp and gets picked back into the team. 7-2 right now for Infinity, and Rusi sitting at 5-0-2.
Yeah, so this Lapu Lapu is really insane so far. Non-stop for Infinity. Here they come. They're causing pressure. No line of defense from the tower at number 2 here. Only the high ground for DreamMax. Almost 10 minutes on the first game. The goal lead here heading for almost 9k for Infinity. It's a very huge advantage so far for Infinity Sports. Now, getting the Lord is easy. It's even way better for them.
Yeah, I feel like DreamMax is doing the best they can. They're not taking fights that they can't win. Unfortunately, that means they're getting bullied all the way across this map. You said almost a 10k gold lead, but it doesn't feel like it because Infinity isn't pressing hard. They're playing very safe. They're methodically getting tower after tower, getting objective, clearing out the minions, clearing out the jungle side of DreamMax. It's just a slow chokehold that they're applying. It just keeps getting tighter and tighter now. All lanes beginning to crash. We have a Lord coming through mid, trying to see if DreamMax is going to be able to withstand this pressure. Sieging coming in from the side of Infinity. You see them trying to take out that top tower. Throne of Rune connects onto ZZ, but they are going to be able to get away. So I feel like this Lord maybe not having the biggest effect. The good clear speed coming from DreamMax, doing a great job clearing out these minions and making sure that their high ground towers don't take out more damage than they need to.
Yeah, and it's a funny fact here, especially coming from ZZ, because ZZ now he has no kills. He has 5 assists, you know, but his presence is so huge. His presence is so important for Infinity and that composition in their idea, especially when it comes to the chain to knock it up the plays for DreamMax. So everything is working so well for Infinity. Like, I think that, okay, they have the idea, they have the plan, the strategy. They practice this exhausting like so many times, you know. But it feels like something went like way even better than they thought. At least I have this impression, you know, because as you said, DreamMax composition is not bad, you know. Like, they have the Goo, they have Alice, they have Ivy, for example, King with Suyo, you know. But I just think that Infinity here they only play better, you know. Look at Fanboy. Oops, Fanboy.
Yeah, he's looking at him. He's gonna go in, and he's basically there to play his role, which is to force away the rest of DreamMax. And here, Rusi gonna be getting a lot of the kills, covered with a lot of the suppressive fire coming out from ZZ, who's gonna be. He uses those chains. He uses the chains, and then he's able to use, I believe it's the dagger, to just really peel away at a lot of damage of a lot of these people, which is allowing Rusi to be able to go in there and get a lot of those last hits. Not only that, but while we're waiting here, every moment that this match continues, you've got Zabloch getting stronger on that Bruno. Pretty soon he's going to have the Malefic gun. He's going to be able to really dish out damage from a good and safe distance from DreamMax. And unfortunately for DreamMax, I feel like we were starting off at a negative. We had a composition that really kind of favored the mid to late game. Not only that, but we also had no way to close the distance onto Zushin to really be able to punish her. And I've said this over and over and over again. If you're gonna allow Zushin out there, there needs to be a plan. That needs to be the core principle of your composition. Unfortunately, needs to be, how do we deal with her? So there's two fronts I feel here that DreamMax is just having issues trying to be successful.
Yeah, you're totally right. And one more thing when it comes to the gold laning situation here, because when you have Claude from DreamMax, for example, with the Blazing Duet, okay, it's a very hard ultimate. It's a very good one that can hit all the players from Infinity, for example. But the Blazing Duet, like it takes the time to use this ultimate again, you know. And when it comes to Bruno, for example, he has high DPS, especially on the mid lane, on the mid game, you know. So when it comes to the basic attack with the first skill, Bruno is gonna cause so much damage than Claude. Here comes the Lord, and here comes the boom.
Yeah, you can see a lot of pressure already mounting up onto these side high ground towers. Infinity doing the best they can as Bruno just slamming away at towers. That's going to be the top tower down. Lord crashing and does get taken out by the rest of DreamMax. Infinity need to make a decision here. Are they going to continue this fight? They do have minions pushing their way through mid, and slowly but surely the side lane minions are coming in there. Ooh, a nice throne of ruin dives deep into the back lines, but Rusi comes in. A flicker stun, able to find the back line, and Zeus. Lydell finds a kill onto Goo, and that is 3 players down for DreamMax. Gore at 50%, and game 1 going to Infinity.
Game 1 here, what a massacre coming out from Infinity Esports. 1-0 so far, Zena.
Yes, what a massacre that was. By the 7-minute mark, Infinity already took down the first tower from the first tower defenses from DreamMax, right? And then Rusi basically getting 5 kills, and then Fanboy getting 5 assists by the 8-minute mark. I'm surprised they allowed Fanboy to even have the tip. Now they might have learned their lesson not to give it to him, right? But now he's already done using it, so he's not able to choose it again. But I'm just saying, unless they wanted that to be the first match, so there's no surprise later, right? So they can use what he had in their arsenal first. I don't know.
Well, it kind of depends. It might be kind of a plan where if you gave them both the chip and the Zushin, Zushin on her own, I already feel like, I think we explained this in an interview yesterday, where they're like, getting Zushin is basically giving the enemy a point. But if you mix that with having chip, basically you've negated one of the points you get. Because I feel like on his own, Fanboy, with whatever composition he goes with this, even if it's not with a Zushin, he's going to be successful. It's almost like giving them an automatic point. If you give them both of this, you're combining, you're basically saying, all right, you could have had 2 points by playing both of these heroes separately, but we let you play them together, so you're only going to be able to get 1 out of it. That's just like a real, like I'm taking a real big liberty on a narrative here, but that was a super successful composition coming out from Infinity here. DreamMax just unfortunately, they were not able to close the distance, and they had some great engagements. I feel like they played this composition the way it was supposed to. The only problem was it didn't come online fast enough to deal with Infinity.
It was pretty like almost an Exodia here coming from Infinity, especially when we have Fanboy here playing with Chip and Zushin in the first game here. So it was like a really good situation to guaranteeing the first victory. But when it comes to the highlights when we are attacking right now, like Goo was trying to do something, especially in the early game here, to get some advantage for DreamMax. But dude, when you're facing like Chip and Zushin, you know, with this huge control pressure, especially on the river. Okay, we can talk about like the Romans are not reaching the level 4 so far to fight versus in this turtle, but there is still the jungler, there's still the XP laner, for example, that can help on the process, that can help the team. So here, Rusi was on fire with this Lapu. Okay, we talk about Fanboy, we talk about like Azizi, but the whole team from Infinity, they are showing not only a synergy, you know, but a confidence to play together, a confidence in their partners, in their teammates here to play so well, to do the execution so well here when it comes to the victory from Infinity.
Yes, and this player came into the match with confidence and completely delivered. Let's check out your MVP, Rusi. As I was saying, he was going in already with those kills right from the start. He has 605 KDA, 52.3k total damage, and 789 golds per minute. He was unstoppable, literally. He did not die.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like counters for the Eve, a big one there is Lapu, who's able to kind of close the distance onto the back line, but he wasn't even just focused on her. He did such a great job of being able to find the squishies at each and every one of these engagements, kind of hiding in the bushes. And as soon as you saw like the Throne of Ruin is out, you're gonna start seeing the real manipulation come down, and he comes in from the side to really put on a lot of damage to that back line. So he was just everywhere he needed to be successful for his team.
Yeah, Rusi was